No contact is not enough. Do this and let him feel. I am Bonang Matheba, and ladies, let me pull you in close because this is the story I wish someone had whispered in my ear the night I hit block on his number for the first time. It was 2:17 a.m. in my Johannesburg penthouse, the city lights flickering like they were trying to spell out his name across the skyline, and my thumb hovered over that little red button longer than I care to admit. My heart was doing cartwheels, my mascara was staging a full rebellion down my cheeks, and every fiber in me screamed that if I just disappeared, he would finally wake up and realize what he had lost. I pressed it, the screen went dark, and in that instant, I thought I had won. I thought no contact was the finish line, the mic drop, the ultimate power move. Girl, I was so wrong. That first night was pure electricity mixed with terror. I laid my phone face down on the marble counter like it was a loaded gun, and I swear I could hear it breathing. Every notification from any other app felt like a false alarm, my pulse spiking, hoping it was him sliding into my DMs with some grand apology. Spoiler, it wasn't. By 4 a.m., I was pacing in silk pajamas that cost more than most people's rent, bargaining with the universe. If I stay strong for 7 days, he'll text. If I make it to 14, he'll call. I turned the ringer off, then on, then off again, convinced that silence was a weapon sharp enough to cut through his ego. The truth, it was only carving me. Morning came with a kind of headache that feels like regret has taken up residence behind your eyes. I dragged myself to the mirror and saw a woman who looked like she had been through a war she didn't sign up for. My edges were frayed, my glow dimmed, and still I told myself, Bonang, you are doing the damn thing. I brewed coffee strong enough to wake the ancestors, opened my laptop, and stared at a blank email draft addressed to no one. Subject line, why I'm gone. I typed 3 paragraphs of pure fire, every hurt, every late night text he left unread, every promise that evaporated like cheap perfume, then I deleted it all. Because even in my rage, I knew sending it would crack the fortress I was trying to build. Instead, I opened my notes app and wrote one line. Day 1, I chose me. That was the seed. The rest of the day unfolded like a slow-motion crash. I went to a brunch meeting wearing sunglasses indoors because my eyes were still swollen, and every time my phone buzzed with a work email, my stomach flipped. I smiled through pictures and champagne flutes, but inside I was counting hours like a prisoner marking tally lines on the wall. By evening, I was back home, curled on the couch with a glass of Pinot and a playlist full of sad girl anthems I swore I was done with. I lasted exactly 47 minutes before I opened Instagram on my iPad, different device, same addiction. His story was up within seconds. Him at the gym, sweat glistening caption, grind never stops. My chest tightened like someone had wrapped a fist around my heart and squeezed. I hated that I cared. I hated that I zoomed in on the background to see if another girl's water bottle was in the frame. I closed the app, opened it again, closed it, opened it. The cycle was exhausting. Around midnight, I caved and texted my best friend, "Is he even thinking about me?" She replied instantly, "Bonang, he's thinking about his protein shake." I laughed so hard I cried, and for a fleeting second, the ache loosened its grip, but sleep still wouldn't come. I lay in the dark, replaying our last fight, how he said I was too much, how I apologized for taking up space. The silence in the room felt heavier than any argument we ever had. And that's when it hit me. No contact wasn't a strategy yet. It was just a reaction. I was hiding, not healing. I was holding my breath, not building a life. Day 1 ended with me whispering into the void, "Tomorrow I start for real." The beginning of no contact is raw, messy, and louder than any fight you ever had, but it is only the doorway, not the house. The first week slid by like trying to walk in 6-inch heels on a slippery runway, every step precarious, every glance back tempting. I woke up each morning with the same ritual. Check phone, see no message from him, feel the stab, then force myself into the shower like cold water could wash away the longing. By day 3, I had memorized the exact time he used to send his "Good morning, beautiful" texts, 7:42 a.m. And when my alarm went off at 7:43, I nearly threw the phone across the room. Work became my distraction and my punishment. I said yes to every meeting, every photo shoot, every interview, because idle hands scroll. But even in the makeup chair, with a glam squad buzzing around me, my mind wandered to what he was doing. Was he laughing with someone new? Did he even notice the void? I started bargaining again. If I make it to day 7, the universe owes me a sign. I avoided our favorite cafe, took the long route home, deleted Uber Eats history so I wouldn't be tempted to order from the sushi spot we loved. My apartment felt like a museum of us, his hoodie still in the laundry basket, the candle he gifted me flickering on the nightstand. I boxed the hoodie but couldn't bring myself to blow out the candle. Baby steps, I told myself. The stalking got worse before it got better. I created a Finsta just to watch his stories without the risk of accidentally liking a post from 2019. I analyzed every new follower, every tag location, every emoji in his captions. One night I saw him at a club I introduced him to, arms around a girl whose dress was shorter than my patience. I screenshot it, zoomed in on her face, then immediately deleted the evidence because who was I becoming? I called my mom at 3 a.m., sobbing, and she said the words that still echo, Bonang, you are grieving the version of him you built in your head, not the man who walked away. That sentence cracked something open. The next morning, I finally blew out the candle. I opened every window, let the high-veld breeze sweep through, and started scrubbing the apartment like I was exorcising ghosts. I rearranged furniture, donated clothes that smelled like his cologne, and turned the guest room into a vision board corner. I printed quotes, glued magazine cutouts of dream vacations, wrote Queen in gold glitter across the wall. It felt childish until it didn't. By day 6, the urge to text him was a physical itch under my skin. I drafted messages I never sent. Do you even miss me? I saw you with her. I'm fine, by the way. Each one felt like swallowing glass. Instead, I started a voice note to myself, raw, unfiltered, ugly, cry, real. I talked about the way he made me feel small, the way I dimmed my light to fit into his shadow, the way I confused effort with love. Listening back was brutal, but it was mine. Day 7 arrived like a finish line I wasn't sure I had earned. I treated myself to a solo dinner at a rooftop restaurant, dressed like I was meeting Beyoncé, and posted one photo, not for him, but for the girl who needed proof she could still smile. Under the fairy lights, with Johannesburg humming below, I realized the silence wasn't empty, it was space. Space to breathe, space to rebuild, space to remember who I was before I started editing myself for someone else's comfort. Week 1 of no contact taught me that pause is not power, but it is the first brick in a foundation only I can lay. By the end of week 2, I was tired of my own reflection, asking the same question, why did I stay so long? So I grabbed a leather-bound journal my assistant gifted me for Christmas, still in the plastic because who has time? And I sat on the balcony with a bottle of Chenin Blanc and zero chill. Pen met paper like therapy I couldn't afford to skip. The first page was a confession. I, Bonang Matheba, accepted less because I thought love was supposed to hurt. Writing it felt like lancing a wound. I kept going. I listed every breadcrumb he tossed my way, late night calls after nights out, I miss you, texts followed by radio silence, compliments that felt like currency he could withdraw anytime. Then I flipped the script and listed what I gave. Rides to the airport at 4 a.m., hyping his dreams while mine collected dust, apologizing for having standards. The imbalance was glaring. I asked myself the question I had been dodging. What part of me believed I deserved scraps? The answer wasn't pretty. It was the little girl who watched her father leave, who learned early that love meant chasing. It was the teenager who equated attention with worth. It was the woman who built an empire but still handed the keys to her peace to a man who couldn't even spell commitment. Tears blurred the ink, but I kept writing until the page was a mess of honesty. The next day, I took the journal to my therapist. Yes, Queen Bee has one, and we unpacked generations of patterns in 50 minutes. She gave me homework. Every time I wanted to check his socials, write one truth about myself instead. Truth 1, I am enough. Truth 2, my value isn't negotiable. Truth 3, I taught him how to treat me, and the lesson plan sucked. I filled pages with affirmations that felt fake until they didn't. I started noticing the lies. I told myself to stay comfortable. He's just busy. He'll change. At least he texts sometimes. Comfortable is the slow cousin of complacency, and I was done. One night, I found an old voice memo he sent during our honeymoon phase, him singing off-key to a song we claimed as ours. I played it once, let the nostalgia punch me in the gut, then deleted it forever. The ache was sharp, but it was clean. No more anesthetic. I replaced the memo with a new playlist titled Bonang Unbothered, full of scissor, Thames, and every anthem that reminded me I was the main character. By the end of the month, the journal was half full, and so was I, full of questions, full of anger, full of hope I hadn't earned yet. The real work of no contact isn't the silence you give him, it's the noise you finally allow yourself to make. Somewhere around the 6-week mark, I caught myself in the elevator mirror at work and realized the woman staring back was whispering a different script. It wasn't, "Will he text today?" anymore. It was, "What do I want today?" That tiny shift felt like flipping a light switch in a room I had been stumbling around in the dark. I decided then and there that mindset wasn't some fluffy Pinterest quote. It was the operating system for the rest of my life. And mine had been running on a cracked version for way too long. I started small, because grand gestures are cute on Instagram but crumble under real pressure. Every morning I stood in front of that same mirror, naked as the day I was born, no filters, no Spanx, no excuses, and I said 3 things out loud. I am whole, I am worthy, I am walking toward better. The first week it sounded like a lie. By week 2 it sounded like a dare. By the end of the month it sounded like gospel. I swapped my nightly doom scroll for audiobooks that fed my spirit. Rachel Rodgers, Mel Robbins, even revisited Michelle Obama, because if the former First Lady can rise, so can I. I created a thought audit every Sunday night. I wrote down every negative loop that played on repeat. Then I counted it with evidence from my own life. Thought, I'll never find someone who loves me like that again. Evidence, I built a media empire from a bedroom in Soweto. I don't need a man to validate what I already know how to build. Thought, I wasted years. Evidence, every scar is a syllabus, and I just graduated with honors in self-respect. I posted sticky notes on my fridge, my dashboard, the inside of my purse, little yellow reminders that said, "Your thoughts create your throne," and "Queen energy only." Friends started noticing. My stylist asked why I suddenly wanted bolder colors. My manager said my pitch meetings had an edge that closed deals faster. Even the barista at my local coffee shop commented that my vibe was giving main character energy. I laughed, but inside I knew the truth. When you stop auditioning for a role in someone else's story, you start directing your own blockbuster. I joined a mastermind group of women entrepreneurs who met every Thursday over Zoom bosses in fashion, tech, wellness, and we held each other accountable for the stories we told ourselves. One night, the prompt was, "What lie are you retiring this quarter?" I wrote, "I need him to be happy." I burned the paper in my fireplace and watched the flames eat the last tether to that old narrative. The smoke curled up like it was carrying the lie straight out of my life. I replaced romance novels with business plans, late-night texts with early morning strategy sessions. I started speaking to myself the way I speak to my little cousins when they fall off their bikes, gentle but firm, full of belief that the next try will be the one that sticks. I even changed my phone wallpaper to a photo of me at 12 years old, gap-toothed and fearless, with the caption, "She never needed permission." Every time I unlocked my screen, that little girl reminded me that the woman I was becoming had always been inside, just waiting for the eviction notice on doubt. By the end of that season, my inner dialogue had upgraded from static to surround sound, and the soundtrack was all mine. Rewiring your mind is not a one-time event. It is the daily decision to choose the thought that lifts over the one that sinks, and every time you do, you lay another plank in the bridge back to yourself. Money became my next love language, not because I was trying to flex, but because I never wanted to feel stuck in a relationship or a city or a life because my bank account was on life support. I sat down with my accountant, a no-nonsense sister named Thandi who wears Ankara prince-like armor, and I laid every fear on the table. The secret credit card debt from funding his business ideas, the savings I drained for trips he promised would bring us closer, the way I confused generosity with grooming him to stay. She didn't flinch. She just slid a yellow legal pad across the table and said, "Write your freedom number." I stared at the blank lines like they were a dare. 6 months of expenses, emergency fund, seed money for the passion project I kept postponing. By the time I finished, the number stared back at me like a North Star. I broke it into bite-sized goals, cut subscriptions I didn't use, negotiate brand deals with upfront payments, launch the online course I had outlined in my notes app for 2 years. I started treating every rand like a soldier in my army of independence. I learned the difference between a want and a weapon lipstick is cute, but a Roth IRA is power. I opened a high-yield savings account and named it Future Bonang, then set up automatic transfers the day I got paid before I could talk myself into another pair of designer heels I didn't need. I turned my closet into a cash machine, consigned the dresses I wore when I was trying to keep his attention, the bags I bought to fill the silence, the jewelry he gave me that felt more like handcuffs than heirlooms. Watching the deposits hit my account felt like reclaiming square footage in my soul. I took a weekend course on personal finance for women. Yes, they exist, and learned terms like compound interest and tax-advantaged accounts that used to make my eyes glaze over. Now they make my heart race. I started a side hustle mentoring young presenters, charging what I was worth instead of what I thought they could afford. The first check cleared, and I framed it not for the amount, but for the reminder that my expertise has value, whether a man sees it or not. I paid off the smallest debt first, the one that mocked me every month, and when the balance hit zero, I danced in my kitchen like I had won the lottery. Because I created a vision board that wasn't about vision, it was about velocity. Images of a house in Bantry Bay with floor-to-ceiling windows, a passport stamped with countries I would visit alone, a line graph climbing steeply labeled net worth. I hung it where my full-length mirror used to be, because every morning I needed to see where I was going, not just who I used to shrink for. I stopped saying I can't afford it and started asking, how can I afford it? The answers came in overtime, in outsourcing, in saying no to free labor disguised as exposure. My girlfriends and I started a money and mimosas brunch where we swapped tips instead of gossip best, cashback cards, investment apps for beginners, how to ask for the raise without apologizing. We toasted to six-figure emergency funds and laughed about the days we thought love could pay the light bill. By the time I hit my first milestone, 3 months of expenses in the bank, I took myself to the same rooftop where I had my solo dinner months earlier. I ordered the most expensive bottle on the menu, poured a glass, and toasted the skyline. Johannesburg glittered below like it was celebrating with me. Financial independence is not about the money in your account. It is about the choices in your future. And for the first time, every door was wide open because I held the keys. The gym used to be punishment calories I needed to burn for a man who never noticed the effort. Now it became my sanctuary, the place where I rebuilt the relationship with the only body I will ever have. I fired my trainer who only talked about snatching my waist and hired a strength coach named Coach Z, who greeted me with, how strong do you want to feel today? That question rewired everything. I started with deadlifts because lifting my own body weight felt like a metaphor I could cling to. The first time I pulled 135 pounds off the ground, I laughed so hard I cried part triumph, part disbelief that this vessel could do something so powerful without a man's permission. I stopped weighing myself and started tracking how many pull-ups I could do unassisted. The answer climbed from 0 to 8, and each one felt like shedding another layer of the girl who thought thin equaled loved. I discovered the difference between eating to shrink and eating to fuel. I meal prepped on Sundays while listening to podcasts about women who run ultramarathons and boardrooms. Sweet potatoes became my love language, grilled chicken, my comfort food, and green smoothies, my morning ritual that tasted like possibility. I joined a boxing class because punching a bag felt like therapy with gloves. The first time I threw a cross-hook, cross-combo and the bag swung like it was running from me, I understood catharsis in 4K. My coach said, anger is just energy looking for direction. And I gave it a target. Every rep for the nights I cried myself to sleep, every sprint for the texts I sent on read, every plank for the boundaries I never set. I started running at dawn along the Emerentia Dam, earbuds blasting songs that made me feel invincible. The first mile was torture, the second negotiation, the third meditation. By the time the sun crested over the jacarandas, I was dripping sweat and smiling like a fool because my lungs worked, my legs carried me, and no one could take that away. I invested in workout gear that made me feel like a superhero, neon leggings, sports bras with crisscross backs, sneakers that matched my mood. Getting dressed for the gym became foreplay with my own potential. I took progress photos not for before and after thirst traps, but to document the way my shoulders squared, the way my posture said, I belong here. My friends started calling me Buff Bonang, and I wore the nickname like a crown. I learned mobility drills that unlocked hips I didn't know were holding grief, foam-rolled knots that felt like unshed tears. I celebrated non-scale victories, The first time I hiked Table Mountain without stopping, the day I carried all my grocery bags up 4 flights of stairs in one trip, the moment I caught my reflection mid-set and thought, damn, I look like I could lift the world. I started a sweat and scripture group chat with my girls where we shared workout wins and Bible verses about being fearfully and wonderfully made. We turned fitness into fellowship, accountability into sisterhood. One Saturday, we did a sunrise yoga flow on the roof of my building. And as we held Warrior 2 facing the city waking up, I felt every muscle fiber singing the same song. I am here, I am whole, I am enough. Taking care of your body is not about earning love. It is about remembering you already have it. And the strongest proof is the way you move through the world unapologetically alive. Peace did a knock on my door. I had to evict the chaos to let it move in. It started with the people I kept on speed dial, the ones who called me at midnight with drama thicker than peanut butter and expected me to spread it on my own bread. I love them, but love shouldn't leave you with a headache and a prayer for strength. So I made a list 3 columns: uplift, drain, neutral, and I was ruthless with the pen. Anyone who lived in drain got the slow fade, fewer replies, shorter calls, polite declines to plans that always ended in tears or tequila shots. One friend, let's call her Kay, took it personal when I skipped her 3rd emergency girls' night in a row. She blew up my phone with voice notes about loyalty until I finally answered and said, "Loyalty isn't me absorbing your storm, so I drown in it." The line went quiet, then she hung up. That silence was the first brick in my peace wall. Next came the environments. I stopped saying yes to events where the vibe was competition dressed as celebration tables full of women side-eyeing each other's outfits while pretending to cheer. I traded those for intimate dinners with 3 or 4 souls who asked, "How's your heart?" instead of "Who are you wearing?" I turned my balcony into a sanctuary. String lights, a plush rug, a small water fountain that sounded like the ocean had come to visit. I read there every evening, no phone, just the sky turning peach and violet while I sipped chamomile and let the day melt off my shoulders. I learned to love my own company the way I used to love his planning solo dates to art galleries, taking myself to the movies with a bucket of popcorn big enough for 2, but all for me, driving to the Magaliesberg with a picnic and a book of Rumi poems. Solitude stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like promotion. I set boundaries like they were designer handbags, non-negotiable and worth every penny. I told my team no new projects after 6 p.m. unless the world was ending, and guess what? The world kept spinning. I muted group chats that buzzed with gossip and replaced them with one called Good News Only, where we shared wins, sunsets, and gratitude lists. I started a bedtime ritual. Magnesium lotion on my feet, lavender on my wrists, and a 5-minute gratitude rampage out loud, naming everything from the way my nephew says my name to the fact that my plants hadn't died yet. Sleep came deeper, dreams came kinder. I unfollowed every account that made me compare or despair fitness models with abs sharper than my knives. Couples posting anniversary tributes that felt like subtweets to single people. My feed became sunrises, scripture, and Black women building empires. I protected my ears too. No more true crime podcasts before bed. No more news cycles that left me anxious about things I couldn't control. I replaced them with jazz playlists and affirmations whispered by women who sounded like they had been through the fire and came out glowing. I even changed my ringtone to wind chimes because every call didn't need to feel like an emergency. The biggest peace upgrade was learning to say no without explanation. No to the ex who slid into my DMs with "just checking on you." No to the family member who thought my success meant I was an ATM. No to the part of me that wanted to people please my way back into spaces that never deserved me in the first place. Each no felt like dropping a sandbag off a hot air balloon. I rose higher with everyone. By the time the rainy season hit Johannesburg, my home smelled like eucalyptus and calm. My calendar had white space. I guarded like gold. And my circle was small enough to fit around one dinner table, but deep enough to hold my whole heart. Peace is not the absence of storms. It is the decision to build a house so strong that the storms have to ask permission to shake the windows. The glow crept up on me the way dawn does slow, then all at once. It started in the little things, the way my laugh came quicker, the way I walked into rooms without scanning for his face, the way I caught myself humming in the shower without a single sad lyric. My skin cleared like it had decided to stop holding on to stress pimples as souvenirs. My eyes carried a sparkle my makeup artist swore she didn't add. People kept saying, "Bonang, you're different." And for the first time, I didn't brush it off with a joke. I leaned in. I started dressing like every day was a red carpet premiere for my own life. Silk slips to the grocery store, diamond studs with sweats, heels, just because the sidewalk deserved to feel them click. I wasn't performing, I was proclaiming. My confidence had a new address. Inside my ribcage, rent-free. I launched the Passion Project. I had been scared to touch a digital platform for young African women in media called Rise and Shine. The first episode dropped on a Tuesday, and by Wednesday, my inbox was flooded with messages from girls who saw themselves in my story. One wrote, "You made me believe my voice matters even when the room is full of men who think otherwise. I cried in my car, ugly cried, the kind that ruins mascara but rebuilds kingdoms. I started saying yes to opportunities that used to terrify me. Keynote at a tech conference in Nairobi, a guest judge on a reality show, a magazine cover where they let me write the headline. I built this." Every yes felt like another layer of armor made of light. My friendships deepened because I showed up as the full me, not the edited version. We talked about therapy breakthroughs, stock portfolios, and orgasm equality over brunch instead of who was dating who. We celebrated each other's wins like they were our own, because they were. I took a solo trip to Cape Town, stayed in a cliffside villa, and watched whales breach while sipping coffee on the balcony. I posted one photo, no caption, just the ocean, and the comments were full of fire emojis and "take us with you next time." But the best part was I didn't need anyone to come. I was already there. My body moved differently, hips swaying like they had secrets, shoulders back like they carried crowns. Strangers smiled at me on the street, and I smiled back without wondering what they wanted. I started a gratitude jar on my kitchen counter. Every night I dropped in a slip of paper with something that made my heart expand. By the end of the month, it was overflowing with moments. The way the barista drew a heart to my latte foam, the day my nephew called me Auntie Superhero, the voicemail from my dad saying he was proud. I read them on New Year's Eve, alone with a bottle of champagne and zero regrets. The glow wasn't makeup or lighting or a filter. It was the visible evidence that I had stopped outsourcing my joy. It was the way peace and power decided to live in the same house without fighting over the thermostat. It was the realization that I didn't need the world to see me shine. I just needed to stop dimming the light for anyone who was afraid of the dark. When you choose yourself long enough, the glow becomes a lighthouse, steady, undeniable, and impossible to ignore, especially by the ships that once sailed away. His text came on a Thursday, the kind of ordinary day that used to feel empty without him. My phone buzzed while I was in a production meeting, and the preview popped up. "Hey B, been thinking about you." My stomach did a flip, but it wasn't the somersault of longing, it was the reflex of muscle memory. I let it sit. I finished the meeting, approved the storyboard, laughed at my director's joke, and didn't check the message again until I was in the car. The full thread unfolded like a time capsule. 3 more texts, each one heavier with nostalgia. "Remember Santorini? Saw your cover. You look happy. Can we talk?" I pulled over to a gas station, bought a bottle of water I didn't drink, and stared at the screen until the words blurred. Part of me, the old me, wanted to type back a novel about every sleepless night, every tear, every way he broke me. The new me took a breath and asked one question. What do I want this conversation to give me that I don't already have? The answer was nothing. I called my therapist instead of him. She reminded me that closure is a solo sport. You don't need the other player to finish the game. I drafted a reply, deleted it, drafted another, deleted that too. Finally, I landed on 4 words. "I wish you well." I hit send, turned off read receipts, and blocked the number before the dots could start dancing. The finality felt like locking a door I used to leave cracked, just in case. That night, I cooked dinner for 1 seared salmon, asparagus, a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, and ate on the balcony while the city hummed its evening song. My phone stayed silent. And for the first time, that silence didn't feel like punishment, it felt like punctuation. The next morning, I woke up without the weight of wondering. I went to the gym, lifted heavier than I ever had, and smiled at my reflection mid-set because the woman looking back didn't need validation from a man who only noticed when the supply was cut off. A week later, I ran into a mutual friend at an event. She pulled me aside, eyes wide. "He's a mess, Bonang. Keeps asking about you, says he messed up." I thanked her for the update, ordered another drink, and changed the subject to her new puppy. His regret was his luggage, not mine. I posted a story that weekend, me on a yacht with my girls, sun setting behind us, caption, living my plot twist. The views skyrocketed, but I wasn't checking for his name in the list. I was too busy living the scene. When an ex reaches out, after you've done the work, the power isn't in the reply. It's in the piece that lets you decide whether a conversation serves the woman you are now. And most times, the kindest answer is the one that keeps the door closed, so you can keep walking forward. Months after that yacht sunset, I found myself on a stage in Atlanta, keynote speaker at a women's leadership summit. Lights hot on my skin, 5,000 faces waiting for whatever wisdom I had scraped from the ashes. I could have talked about brand deals or red carpet hacks, but instead I told them the truth. The most powerful thing I ever did was learn how to leave a room inside my own head that no longer served me. The room went still, then erupted, and in that roar I saw every woman who had ever sat in her car crying over a text that would never come. I flew home lighter, not because of the applause, but because I finally understood that my story wasn't a cautionary tale, it was a blueprint. So here is the map I wish I had when I pressed that first block button, drawn in the ink of every tear, every deadlift, every no I finally meant. Start tonight, right where you are, phone in hand, heart in pieces. Open your notes app and write the date at the top. Under it, list 3 lies you have been telling yourself about why you stay, why you wait, why you settle. Be brutal. The truth is the only scalpel sharp enough to cut the cord. Then, on the next line, write one truth about your worth that has nothing to do with him. Say it out loud until your voice stops shaking. That is day 1. Tomorrow, wake up and move your body before you move your thumbs. 10 push-ups, a walk around the block, a dance in your kitchen to a song that makes you feel like the main character. Motion creates emotion, and you need new feelings to crowd out the old ones. Drink water like it is medicine, because dehydration is just sadness you can flush out. Eat something green, not for the grams, but because your body kept you alive through every night you thought you might not make it to morning. While the coffee brews, open your banking app and transfer $20 or 20 Rand or whatever you can spare into an account labeled Freedom Fund. Watch the number grow like a promise you are keeping to your future self. At lunch, text one friend who makes you laugh until your ribs hurt and tell her you are starting a 30-day glow-up. Ask her to check in, not to police you, but to celebrate you. Delete one app that steals your peace, Instagram, TikTok, whatever feeds the comparison monster. Replace the icon with a podcast about money, mindset, or motherhood, something that pours into the woman you are becoming. In the evening, set a timer for 15 minutes and journal without censorship. Ask yourself what you needed from him that you can give yourself. Attention? Schedule a solo date this weekend? Adventure? Book the cooking class, the pottery workshop, the hike you kept waiting for someone else to plan. Security? Google high-yield savings and open the account before the timer dings. When the urge to check his page hits, and it will, like a phantom limb itching where the love used to be, do 10 deep breaths and name 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, 1 you can taste. Ground yourself in the now, because the past is a museum and you no longer work there. Before bed, stand in the mirror and forgive the version of you who stayed too long. Speak to her like she is your little sister, gentle, firm, full of faith that she will choose better tomorrow. Then list 3 wins from the day, no matter how small. Brushing your teeth without crying counts. Sleep with your phone across the room, charging like it is on timeout, because your dreams deserve the first word in the morning. Repeat this cycle for 30 days, then 60, then 90, until the habits harden into identity. You will mess up. You will unblock him at 2 a.m. after 1 too many glasses of wine. You will hate the salad, skip the workout, spend the $20 on takeout. Forgive faster than you fail. The goal is progress, not perfection. Track your streak on a paper calendar with big red X's, the same way your mama marked your height on the kitchen doorframe. Watch the chain grow until breaking, it feels worse than any text he could send. Somewhere around day 45, you will catch your reflection and not recognize the light in your eyes. That is the moment to raise the bar. Add a side hustle, a therapy session, a boundary conversation with the friend who still drags you into drama. Keep the foot on the gas, because momentum is a jealous lover. Neglect it and it finds someone else. By day 100, you will have a glow that needs no filter, a bank account that sleeps better than you do, and a circle so solid it could hold the ocean. You will hear his name and feel nothing but the faint echo of a song you used to know the words to. That is when you know the work is working. You are not waiting for him to feel it. You are living it. And if you need proof that this blueprint works, look at me. The girl who once measured her worth in blue ticks now measures it in lives changed, including her own. Your turn starts with one decision, tonight, right now, to choose the woman you are becoming over the ghost of who you were with him. The tools are simple, the timeline is yours, and the outcome is non-negotiable. A life so full that the past has no room to rent. Drop your day one truth in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, like if you are ready, share with the sister who needs this today, and let us build a community of women who glow so bright the darkness has to introduce itself before it even tries to stay.